Today I'm going to have a quick look at Russia's attempt to go to the moon. The mission is known as Luna 25, supposedly launched yesterday, but already we've got problems left, right and centre. So let's just have a quick look. Get to look at some of the build quality here. Now, if we were to judge the build quality from these cartoons, and we were to base all our opinions about this lunar lander from Russia on these cartoons, I wouldn't be too disappointed if I was a space fan. They don't look too bad. The problem is when we actually see the lunar lander, yeah. Another nice cartoon, and then we get to see the real thing. That makes India's lunar lander look like a beautiful piece of art. Look here. That doesn't look anything like the cartoon. The cartoon looked pretty cool. This, I'm afraid to tell you guys, well, you don't really need to hear it from me. It's obviously a terrible space prop stroke art project. Dear oh dear. More angles of this silly Luna 25 lander. Then we get this shot of what appears to be the team. And what's strange, when we do zoom in, I called it like an art project. And it would seem we've got nothing but young people here involved in this silly, terrible looking art project. No one looks impressed. Can see they even got the dinner lady out here in the middle. She doesn't look impressed. She's looking at all that tin foil thinking, I could have done so much more. You could have, my dear. That is terrible, lads. Now we start to see them load this work of art onto the rocket that's going to take this beautiful bit of technology, supposedly, to the moon. I think we get to see the rocket now. So the lunar lander's been put in the fairing, which is the white bit on the left-hand side. And of course we get to see this Soyuz rocket here in all its glory here before it goes to the moon. More shot being transported to the launch site. And I believe this is a shot. Yeah, this is a shot actually at the launch site. And I think the next shot, I believe, is where they now take off and supposedly head to the moon. And this is where the problems begin, okay? See if you can spot the obvious problem here as we go from this shot to the launch. We'll watch the rocket take off and I'll come back, okay? I do love a good firework display, but there's an obvious problem here. Most of you, I suspect, would have spotted it. Let's go back. Here's the Soyuz rocket that the lunar lander was attached to. Here's the Soyuz rocket that we just saw take off that's supposedly going to the moon. See the problem? Two totally different rockets. The rocket we saw the lunar lander attached to isn't the rocket we saw take off that was sighted as going to the moon. That rocket is white. The rocket we saw the lunar lander loaded to in the fairing is grey. All right, it has white fairing, but even the fairing is different. You've got ribs at the bottom of it where the fairing attaches to the rocket body, and at the end, the actual nose of the fairing is quite round. You then go to this rocket, there's no ribs where the fairing champers into the actual rocket, and the top of the fairing, essentially the nose of the rocket, is quite flat in comparison to this one. The grey rocket had the lunar lander loaded to it. Yet the rocket that's supposedly going to the moon isn't the rocket that the lunar lander is attached to. You see the obvious problems with this silliness yet again? And this silliness ain't over. There's a side-by-side. There's the grey rocket at the launch pad. Let's head back to the footage anyway, because like I say, this silliness isn't over yet. So I fast forwarded the Russian firework display to here, okay?
Гад номер 12210 и космического аппарата Луна-Глоб выведен на опорную орбиту.
And then we get shown this obvious cartoon, and then we come to the next bit. I can't get a definite answer on this next clip we're about to see. I think people are too embarrassed to answer. I don't know if Russia are actually citing this next clip as real footage or not. Like I say, I can't get anyone to answer. I think if it is being cited, people are too embarrassed to answer. Because obviously this is a blatant cartoon. But check the next shot out. Joking, right? And then we get shown their flight profile. And this is just silly in itself, because Russia have only just supposedly left yesterday. And yet they're going to arrive there before India or at the same time. So if that's the case, why didn't India use the same flight profile? It's all silliness anyway. They can't get their pantomimes together. But Russia have got a bit of a problem with their lunar mission. They haven't even got the lunar lander on board the rocket they've sent. Just silliness of the highest order. And let's not forget this silly footage. 2 secs. So early indicators would suggest this Russian Luna 25 moon landing is going to be an absolute giggle fest. Who knows where their lunar lander is? It's certainly not heading towards the moon. It's on a different rocket. And then we get to see absolute gems like this. Oh, I can't wait. The mainstream are reporting on this, who's going to win the space race. But anyone with the slightest discernment really looks at this in a totally different manner. Who's going to give us the most giggles? I can't wait. India or Russia?